we should take up this chanting of Hare Krishna. Oh, wow. As the Yoga Dharma. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki Jai. Thank you very much. All glories to Prabhupada Jai. Okay, so when we chant Hare Krishna, we are directly connected to Krishna. In other words, Krishna is hearing us because he's in our heart. So we should always be chanting Hare Krishna. We should never be talking nonsense because Krishna is in our heart. So if you always chant Hare Krishna, even if it's in your mind, it's best to chant loudly, but sometimes you might be in a situation where you can't chant loudly, so you chant silently. But Krishna is hearing you, and that's important because Krishna will give you special attention because you're chanting his holy names. And by chanting his holy names, you are glorifying the Lord. So it's very, very important to glorify Lord Krishna by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, so tonight we're going to hear from Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 and verse number 3. And you can repeat after me. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschid jatati siddhaye jatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. Now we continue repeating what I say. Out of many thousands among men, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. This is Krishna speaking. So he says, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Okay, so that means that when it says that hardly one knows me in truth, well, everyone can know Krishna. The trouble is they're not interested in knowing Krishna. That's why he says, hardly one knows me in truth. It's not that it's impossible to know Krishna or it's almost, it's so difficult to know Krishna. Actually, knowing Krishna is a very wonderful thing. But most people are not interested in knowing Krishna. They want to know so many other things, what the stock market is doing and the news and this and that. However, that's why he says, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. What is perfection? Perfection means that you know your relationship with Krishna and you act in that relationship with Krishna. So what is our relationship with Krishna? We are always subordinate to him. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we are the eternal servants of the Lord. If we accept these simple statements explaining who we are, who Krishna is, and what is our duty in life, well, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. We are the part and parcel of Krishna. That means we've all come from Krishna. He's the real father of all living entities, and therefore we are actually meant to serve Krishna with love and devotion. Once you understand these things, you begin to have a very wonderful spiritual life. Why? Well, as soon as you chant Hare Krishna and understand that Krishna is the original father of all living entities, and that Krishna is promising his devotee that he will never perish. In other words, he's promising to protect his devotee. Now you have confidence that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, you can attain all sorts of perfection. And what is perfection? It's knowing your relationship with God or Krishna and acting in that relationship. And how do you act in that relationship? It's by engaging in the devotional service of Krishna. And what is the best way to do that? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, you're in direct connection with Krishna, and you're glorifying the Lord by his holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So sound vibration is the way to connect to God. Sound vibration. So by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and you're saying the names of Krishna, like Krishna, Govinda, etc., you connect directly to Krishna, and he connects to you. That's why it says here, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Well, many people know something about Krishna, but to actually know him in truth, you would have to become the devotee of the Lord. Just like if you have a friend, but you don't really have a strong attachment or love for your friend, he's just a friend. Well, you don't really understand who your friend is. But if you have, let's say, some love and devotion for your friend, then you will learn much more of who he is and how to relate with him. So in this explanation of the verse today, and you can repeat after me now, there are various grades of men. And out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. And hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Sankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of the impersonal Brahman. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know Krishna. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy. Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti, practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti, may be easy. But when it is practiced factually, according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now you don't have to repeat this. Shruti Smriti Puranandi. You don't have to repeat. Pancharatra Vidimbina Aitkantaki Harir Bhaktir Utpataya Vakalpate. Devotional service of the Lord. Say that. That ignores the authorized Vedic literatures, like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra, is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yasoda, or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Mulyanti yat suraya. That means confused about the Supreme Lord. Mam tu vedana kasyana. That's another phrase saying the same one thing. No one knows me as I am, Krishna says. No one knows me as I am, Krishna says. Go ahead. The Lord says, and if one does know him, then sa mahatma sudurlabha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, tatvata. That's Sanskrit. It means as it is. Right? Even though one is a great scholar or philosopher, only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities of Krishna. In the cause of all causes, in his omnipotence and opulence, and in his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization. And the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore it is said, no one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses. But he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Okay, so this is very important information if you're interested in knowing something about Krishna. So, the way to know Krishna, let's say the easy way to know Krishna, is just to associate with genuine devotees who have love and devotion for Krishna. Then you'll quickly know who Krishna is. If you associate with people who are not actually genuine devotees, they're more like scholars or speculators. So you'll never really know by hearing from them who Krishna actually is. You have to hear from someone who actually has love and devotion for Krishna. And therefore, you become also someone who has love and devotion for Krishna. That is actually the real purpose of knowledge. Knowing a lot about mathematics, knowing a lot about physics, knowing a lot about so many different subjects is not going to help you liberate from the cycle of birth and death. At the moment of death, if you recite all the things you learned about math or history and any other mundane subject, it's not going to help you. But if you simply know the name of Krishna and say the name of Krishna at the moment of death, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Quickly, right away, you go back to the spiritual world for eternal life. That's how powerful the names of Krishna are. So, what's more important? Being an expert in mundane knowledge by which you will never be free from the cycle of birth and death, or to ignore mundane knowledge and fill yourself up with knowledge about Krishna and how to please Krishna and how to love Krishna. That's much more important than mundane knowledge. So therefore, you have to decide what you really want in life. Well, most people would really like to have eternal life, not getting old and sick and dying. The only way to do that is by chanting Hare Krishna and following the regulative principles of spiritual life. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and always chanting Hare Krishna, always associating with genuine devotees, always engaging in Harinam Sankirtan, and always eating only Krishna Prasadam. Now you will become purified of all misconceptions, and at the moment of death, you'll be able to remember Krishna. Of course, here it says, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Okay, so that's sort of making a statement that most people, it's not that you can't understand Krishna. It's very difficult. No, it's very easy to understand Krishna if you develop love and devotion for him. But most people are not interested. That's why it says here, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth, Krishna says. So, in the purport, and you can repeat after me now, there are various grades of men. And out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Okay, so let's discuss this now. What is the self? Well, that means you're not this body. So that's the first thing you have to understand. The real self is not your body. Why? Because your body is changing always. So you cannot say, I am my body or I am the self. Then who are you exactly? Well, you are the consciousness in the body and witnessing all the changes of the body. Now you're getting closer to who you are. And to get even closer, you are the eternal servant of Krishna, and your real identity is to be the servant of the Lord. And the real purpose of life is to engage in practical devotion service for Lord Krishna. Now you're getting very close, or exactly at the pinnacle of spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is not complicated, it's very easy. Why? Because if you accept knowledge from a bona fide source or devotee, you're not going to be misled. The devotee will only repeat what Krishna has originally said in Bhagavad Gita. That's how you can recognize a genuine devotee. The devotee will not say, well, my opinion is, or maybe it's like this, or maybe it's like that. Never. Devotee never speaks like that. He will simply repeat what Krishna has originally said in Bhagavad Gita. That is a genuine devotee. And you can test to see if the devotee is speaking properly. If the devotee says something, you have the right to say, where does Krishna say that in the Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is the greatest book and the oldest book in the history of the world. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, explains who he is to Arjuna. So, if you read Bhagavad Gita, that's good. But if you hear Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees, that's much better. Because now you have the chance to ask questions and clear any doubts you might have about who is Krishna, what is the purpose of life, how to engage in devotional service, what is genuine knowledge and what is fake knowledge, and so forth. There's so many things you have to learn in order to be free from illusion. Illusion is caused by ignorance. Ignorance is caused by being lazy. So if you make an effort to understand Krishna, then you have to come regularly to the temple and hear lectures. You might say, well, I'll just buy a book and read that. But you won't really understand much. Getting a book and reading it, okay, that's fine. But coming to the temple regularly and hearing the lectures, which are and the lectures are all about Bhagavad Gita and all about Krishna. And now you have a chance to ask questions. It's by asking questions that you really learn. You don't ask questions. If you don't ask any questions, you'll not learn very much and you'll not remember very much. But if you have a question and you ask it sincerely and get the proper answer, you'll probably never forget that in the rest of your life. Or at least there's a good chance that you'll never forget it. Okay, so if you just listen, well, you're not going to remember much after the class. One time there was a person who listened to the class in the temple. And when he went back to his home, one of his relatives said, so what did they say today in the class? He said, oh, all good things. And the gentleman said, well, can you tell me one good thing? He said, oh, there were so many things. I can't tell you exactly all of them. He said, I don't want to know all of them. I just want to know one of them. He said, well, I don't remember now. So, yeah, the problem is it goes in one ear and comes out the other ear most of the time. So in order to remember what you hear, you have to ask questions. That means you have an interest in what you heard, and you want to make sure you heard it correctly, so you ask a question. And then you will learn, and you'll never forget. When you ask a question, that means you're really interested in the subject. Now, what is the subject in the temple? The subject is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's so much to learn about Krishna. Therefore, there should be many questions to ask about Krishna. If you have no questions, you'll never really learn who Krishna actually is and how to please Krishna. So in this verse it says, there are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Okay, so let's understand what these 3 points are. What is the self? Well, everyone will say, well, I know what the self is. It's me. But no, very few people actually know who they are. Why do I say that? Because most people will identify with the body, and that's not the self. Why do I say that? Because if you say, I am this body, then I can ask you, which body are you talking about? The one when you were in the womb of your mother, the one that came out of the womb of the mother, the one that you were when you're 10 years old or 20 years old or 50 years old. You see, your body is always changing, so you cannot say, I am this body. So therefore, what is the body? Well, what is the self? The self is the soul. Do you see the soul? No. Have you ever seen your soul? No. But you see the soul, your soul acting. So when you have pain, well, that's a message from your soul that you're doing something wrong. And you can see the soul by consciousness, where you can feel happiness and distress. That means that, if you get a stick and you stick a pin in it, it doesn't say anything, right? And if you tell a joke, it doesn't chant. It doesn't smile or laugh. So a stick does not have any consciousness, or very, very low consciousness, or no consciousness. But a human being has consciousness. But if the consciousness is contaminated by speculation and sinful activities, then it becomes very dull and is not able to understand what is the real purpose of life. Now, you might say, well, you have to go to school, you have to be educated. Yes, but schools don't really educate you properly. They don't explain to you that you're not this body. You are the soul that is animating the body with consciousness. They don't teach that in school. So, therefore, where can you learn who you are, and where can you learn what is the self? Okay. All right, don't worry about that. You can learn that here in the temple. We can explain to you very clearly who you are. So what does it mean, who you are? It means you are the eternal servant of Krishna. Why bring Krishna into the definition? Because we were all came from Krishna originally. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is the original father of all living entities. And we are all relatives. You came from Krishna, I came from Krishna, everybody comes from Krishna. So now we have something in common. Also, Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the father of all living entities, there's responsibility now. We should serve Krishna. That's our real purpose in life, to learn how to serve Krishna with love and devotion, because he is the closest person to us. He's right in the heart of every living entity. In my heart, your heart, in the heart of every living entity, not only human beings. Okay, so now we're beginning to learn the importance of having knowledge of Krishna. When you have knowledge of Krishna and regularly hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, you have no fear, you have no anxiety, you have no hatred, you have no doubts in life. You know who you are. You are the eternal servant of Krishna. You know who Krishna is. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you know that Krishna promises to protect his devotee. Knowing those things means that you have a peaceful mind and life, and you'll be able to learn more and more about Krishna. And at the moment of life, when you're meeting death, you'll be able to remember Krishna and go back to the spiritual world. That should be our real goal in life. People have many, many goals, right? Making a lot of money, engaging in sense gratification, becoming famous, this thing, that thing, so many things, and none of those things are eternal. They're all temporary. However, knowing your relationship with Krishna, now you're talking about something that's eternal. Therefore, there is Sat and Asat. Sat is what is eternal. Asat is what is not eternal. So therefore, we should be very interested in things that are eternal, because if we become engaged eternally in the service of Krishna, we go back to Godhead. Therefore, we need to have knowledge of Krishna so that we have faith that Krishna is God, and that by engaging in Krishna's service in this lifetime, we can go back to the spiritual world for eternal life and also be blessed with all knowledge, all happiness, all, let's say, peace, and so forth. Those are things that people are seeking, but they're looking in the wrong place. There was once a man, he lost his keys, and he was looking for them. It was at nighttime. He was looking for them under a street light. And another man came and said, "Sir, did you lose something?" He said, "Yes." He said, "What did you lose?" "My keys." He said, "Did you lose it here, underneath this lamp, this street lamp?" He said, "No." He said, "Where'd you lose it?" He said, I lost it out there in that green area." He said, "Well, why aren't you looking for it there?" He said, "Well, there's no lights there. There's lights here under this lamp." "So you think you'll ever find the keys?" "No way, Jose." No, he'll never find it. And that's what most people do. They're always looking for the truth in the wrong place. The truth is in Krishna, because he's the father of all living entities. Now, some people will say, no, the truth is in Adonai, or the truth is in God, or the truth well, Adonai is another name of Krishna, and God is another name of Krishna. But Krishna is a very personal and ecstatic name. Not that the other names of God are not bona fide, they are. But Krishna is very intimate name of God. And by following Krishna consciousness, you become very intimate with Krishna. That means that the more you know about Krishna, the more you become educated in spiritual knowledge, and the more you will have the enthusiasm to serve Krishna with love and devotion. So that should be our real vocation in life. It's not that somebody is a PhD, another person drives a taxi, another person this, another person that. Our real vocation in life is to become a genuine devotee of Krishna. And by doing that, you can liberate yourself from the cycle of birth and death, and help many, many others also be liberated from the cycle of birth and death simply by knowing Krishna. So the more we know of Krishna, the more we are educated, the more we have faith in Krishna, and the more we become peaceful in mind and body and engage in the service of the Lord. So, in this purport today, there are certain very nice statements. It says, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchitananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know him, although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti, or devotional service, is very easy. They cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti, practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti, may be easy, but when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Devotional service to the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yasoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says, and if one does know him, then Samahatma Sudurlabha, such a great soul, is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotee can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna, in the cause of all causes, in his omnipotence and opulence and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said, no one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. If there's something you want to remember from the class tonight, remember this. Devotional service, that is practical service for Krishna, is the way to know him. You can, let's say, know him in a superficial way, but the real way to know Krishna is to be engaged in practical service. So in the temple here, there are many practical services that you can render to Krishna. You can wash the dishes. You can come with us on Sankirtan. You can sit down at the entrance and welcome people that are coming to the temple. You can meditate on the deities. You can do 1,000 different things or ways to connect to Krishna in the temple. By connecting to Krishna through devotional service, you become a devotee. By becoming a devotee of Krishna, now the Lord will give you knowledge, he will protect you, and he will guide you so that you never fall back into the ignorance of mundane life. Mundane life is full of ignorance. It's, as they say in English, colloquial statements, it's same old, same old. It's the same old nonsense over and over again, day after day. And eventually when you die, you have no knowledge of what's going to happen to you. See, when there was this one Gujarati lady, and when she was approaching death, she was very happy. She had raised, her children, and she had grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and now she was on her deathbed, and she wasn't she wasn't in any way, let's say, in anxiety, because she knew exactly where she was going to go. She's going to go back to the spiritual world. And therefore, she actually did go back to the spiritual world. She died saying the name of Krishna. Okay? So that means, but she was not like a famous person. She was not a great scholar. She was not a someone who was very rich. She was just a grandmom who had some children and grandchildren, but she was a genuine devotee. And she was someone who actually attained the perfection of human life. She remembered Krishna at the moment of death and went back to the spiritual world. These are special people. She was a Gujarati lady, a very nice lady, and always wanting to give prasadam to anybody she met or would come in contact with her, and always talking about Krishna. So one day we were going door to door in this neighborhood where there are a lot of Indians, not red Indians, but Indians from United from Bharat, and so we knocked on the door of one family. And someone opened the door, and when he saw us, he said, "Oh, you guys are Hare Krishnas." We said yes, and I said, "Can we come in?" He said, "Yeah, you can come in." So we entered into his house, and he had been watching television, and all his family was watching television. He says, "You're going to want to go up to the first floor of our house where our grandmother is. She'll be there, and she'll welcome you." So we went up to the first floor, and there the grandmother was in her bedroom. And when she saw us, she gave her dandavat. She bowed down. And it wasn't a really big bedroom, but she asked us to sit on her bed, and she asked us to chant Hare Krishna. And then she also prepared some prasadam, and we had a very nice time. Now, all that same time, her children and grandchildren were watching television downstairs while we were upstairs with the grandmother. That means that there was a breakdown in the culture of Krishna consciousness in that family. The grandmother was she was a genuine devotee. She knew everything. And she couldn't speak English, but she just said, she was just saying like one word, like saying, kirtan, 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 right? So we did kirtan. And then she said, prasad. And we nodded yes. So she was communicating with us, even though she couldn't speak English. And she was a genuine devotee. But her children and grandchildren, was zero. They were not interested at all in Krishna consciousness. They were just watching television. But we had a great time with the grandmother. And then before we left, she thanked us like 50 times over, I can understand why, because she was upstairs in her bedroom chanting Hare Krishna. And her kids and grandkids were downstairs watching television, right? She was not at all interested in watching television. Right? And she didn't have a television anyway upstairs. So we were very fortunate to meet such a lady. She was very, very kind. And she couldn't speak English, but she understood us and we understood her because we have the same culture. Sometimes you don't have to know the language of a country when you meet people that have the same culture as you do. So she was a genuine devotee. She was a Gujarati lady, and she was fully and dedicated to Krishna. You could see it in her everything she did. You could see it in the pictures she had in her bedroom, and you could see it when she wanted to give us prasadam, which she did, and wanted us to chant Hare Krishna. We did that. And she wanted us to read some Shastra. We read Bhagavad Gita, although she didn't understand English. but she said, that we should recite Shastra, and then we had a wonderful time with her. She understood us, we understood her, because it was exactly the same culture. Same thing happened to me. One time I was walking down the street in in India, in one town, and some man came up to me. I was dressed like like a devotee, and he said, "Are you ISKCON?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You come with me." I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "I don't know who you are." He said, "No, no, no. I know who you are." I said, "Well," I said, "Well, what do you mean you know who I am?" He said, "Well, you're ISKCON, right?" I said, "Yes." I said, "You come with me. You come to my apartment. I want to make prasadam. I want you to chant Hare Krishna. I want you to enjoy nice prasadam." So this complete, stranger insisted that I go with him to his apartment, which I did. He sat me down and he said, "Please chant Hare Krishna." I started chanting Hare Krishna. And then he was cooking prasadam. Then he offered prasadam. And then he asked me to give a class. And after I finished the class of Bhagavad Gita, then we had the prasadam. And he was very, very, let's say, thankful. He gave me some donation. And it was a wonderful experience. It was complete. I was a complete stranger, and he was a complete stranger, but we both understood each other because we were both devotees, right? And he was very, very, let's say, very, very advanced spiritually. Although he was just an ordinary person, but he was advanced spiritually. And he picked me up. He didn't know who I was. But when he saw that I was dressed like a devotee, and when he invited me to his house, I said yes. We went to his house, and he made prasadam. He asked me to give a class. Then we had prasadam, and he gave a donation to me. And it was just, like we had never, he didn't know who I was, but he did know who I was because I was dressed like a devotee. And when I went with him, I understood everything he was doing. He was a devotee also, you see. Now, when I first went to India, I had a big realization. Everything Prabhupada had taught us in the United States was exactly what we were seeing in Vrindavan. Say, 19, 60 something. Everything that we had learned in the United States, we were seeing it in India, right? And more also. So what Prabhupada taught us was pure Krishna consciousness. And when I went to Vrindavan for the first time, I realized he taught us exactly what was being practiced in Vrindavan for hundreds and millions of years, right? So what Prabhupada did was bona fide, and that's why he was able to make so many devotees. Okay, I'll stop right there. Are there any questions anyone likes to ask or comments? Where is Mike? What's his last name? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Yes.
Should we first bow down to Gurudev, or should we first bow down to Krishna?
That's a good question. First, you bow down to Krishna. You know why?
No.
Because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the first thing to do when you come to the temple is come very quickly to the deities and bow down. Now, when you're in the temple room, you shouldn't bow down to anybody. But outside the temple room, you can bow down to Gurudev, or you can bow down to anybody. There was one devotee, he gave his dandavats 3,000 times a day. Every devotee he saw, he gave dandavats to him. And that was, usually outside somewhere. So, yeah, you can, as soon as you come to the temple, you should come up and bow down to the deities. Okay? And then if you want to go out and go downstairs, if you see a advanced devotee, you can bow down to them. Don't bow down to devotees in the temple room. The temple room, you only bow down to the deities. Haribol. That's a good question. Yeah, of course. Well, he's here, right? Yeah.
Maharaj, I had a question, like sometimes when we preach to new devotees, new people, then sometimes they invite us for prasadam, like you were mentioning.
They what?
They invite us for prasadam.
They what?
Prasad?
They want
Food.
prasadam?
No, they invite us to offer us prasadam.
Oh, okay. They invite us for prasadam. That's
Yes.
what you said. Okay.
Correct. So many times they might not be following all the
Rules and
regulations of
regulations.
cooking. Like, say, one person is not following the principles of eating vegetarian, other person is following, and but they know that yes, these are devotees, so they eat without onion, garlic. So how should we handle that situation?
Well, first of all, you have to understand, everything is not prasadam. You can't really accept food from a non-devotee. That's a big mistake. That'll affect you, your Krishna consciousness. But you can invite your friends to your apartment or house and give them very nice prasadam. Now, if they want to say, well, you come to my house, you say, okay, but so I've been in that situation many times. I say, yeah, I'll come and I'll cook for you in your house, right? So sometimes they don't really like that very much, but that's what I do. I'll go and I'll cook for them in their house and offer it to Krishna. Right. Why? Well, because we should never accept food from non-devotees. That would be a big mistake.
Like even if like one person is following, other person is not following in that house, still like.
Well, I mean, you mean who's cooking though? Who's cooking? The
Depends
one
on
that's
who's
following or the one that's not following?
Okay.
No, you have to ask questions. One time this lady told me, oh, Prabhu, come have prasadam. I said, okay, but can I ask you a question? She said, yes, what is it? I said, did you make the prasadam? She said, no. I said, well, where did it come from? She said, I bought it from the restaurant Taj Mahal. I said, oh. I said, do you know who the cook was? She said, yeah, his name is Ahmed. I said, okay, that's not prasadam then. Ahmed doesn't know how to cook prasadam. So you have to ask questions. You don't ask any questions, you won't find out, if it's bona fide or not. Oftentimes, people tell you, oh, come have prasadam, but, you should find out, did they cook it themselves? And there's a bunch of questions you have to ask them, and are they themselves devotees, right? If they themselves are not devotees, they probably are cooking meat and other things in those utensils.
Yeah, Maharaj. It happens in families like, say, husband is eating meat, but wife is following, she is chanting,
Yeah.
right? So it becomes difficult to judge what to do in that situation.
Yeah, well, it's better you invite them to your house to have prasadam. Okay. You don't want to eat in a house where the utensils are contaminated by cooking meat and other things. You know. So you have to be very careful. Very, very careful. Anybody else have a question, comment?
If nobody's there, I can ask one more question on chanting.
You're very welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you. Maharaj, some tips on how to have a nice focused chanting, like 16 rounds very nicely in one go, very focused and very meditative. Some tips, some blessings. from
Well,
your side.
The first thing is you have to go to bed early and wake up early so that in the Brahma Muhurta you can chant the rounds without any interruption, right? You go to bed, let's say 8:30, 9 o'clock, wake up 3 o'clock in the morning. Now you don't have to go to work till, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, right? So that means you have at least 3-4 hours free. So that's when you chant your rounds. That's the best time, very early in the morning, and where you don't have any obligations. Then you're ready to meet the world and all the different obligations that you have. So you should go to bed early. Like like now, it's like 10. It's like not quite 9 o'clock, right? So you should be in bed 9:30. So you wake up 3 o'clock or 3:30, right? And chant your rounds. That's ideal. You don't want to chant your rounds you wake up late and you're trying to chant your rounds and you have to go to work at the same time. And you're trying to chant 2 or 3 rounds in your car while you're driving to work. It's not going to work. Those are not going to be good rounds anyway. So you have to go to see now. Ideally, is going to sleep 8:30 or latest 9 o'clock. Yeah, that way you can wake up 3 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and now you have time to chant your rounds very well, and also, meditate nicely on chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Because the telephone's not going to ring, like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And so you have the peace of mind to chant. But if you wake up late and then you're trying to chant, while you're driving to work, or it's not the same thing. And they're not going to be good rounds anyway. So it's very important. If you want to have a spiritual life, first thing is go to bed early, wake up early. That's the first thing you have to do. Then you'll be able to chant your rounds every day. Good rounds. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhuji, Haripo. Is the microphone on? We want to hear every word you say, Prabhu.
Maharaj.
It's still not on.
Yeah,
Okay.
Maharaj, Dhanavad Maharaj. Maharaj, coming back to the same question that Yogi asked about bowing down in the temple hall, you mentioned.
Yeah.
So I understood everything, but how about bowing down to you as Maharaj, and when you are in the Vyasasana? Usually I have done that many times, and I have seen also many devotees bow down here before sitting down. Because you are
Well, generally, you only bow down to the deities in the temple. You don't bow down to devotees. Outside of the temple, you can bow down.
yeah, but
the
even because you are in the Basasan, so
It's much better just to bow down to devotees outside of the temple.
okay, Maharaj.
Yeah. Yeah. Bowing down is in the temple, it's meant for the deities. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Okay, well, no more questions. He already asked the question. All right. Well, what is our takeaway for today? Let me take a look here. Our takeaway from this verse, Manushyanam Sahasresu Kaschit Jatati Sitaye Jatatam Apisitanam Kaschit Mam Viti Tatvataha. Out of many thousands of men, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. And in the purport it says that it is very difficult for the non-devotee to know Krishna. Okay, everybody knows that. Let's see what's next page here. Non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy. They cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually, according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. And Srila Rupa Goswami says, devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yasoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says, and if one does know him, then such a devotee is very dear to him. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is in truth, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotee can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna, in the cause of, as the cause of all causes, in his omnipotence and opulence, and in his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization. And the devotees alone can realize him as he is, therefore, as he is. Therefore, it is said, Ataksi Krishna Namadi, Namave Grayam Indriyai, Sevan Muke Hichivado Swayam Eva Spurat Yada. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Okay, so you want to know Krishna? You should come to the temple and immediately ask the devotees in the temple, is there anything I can do? I want to do some service. Okay, well, you can go and cut all the boxes outside and make them flat so that they can be taken away. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, you can also, we need some butter. We don't have any butter. Can you go to the supermarket and buy some? Okay, I'll do it right away. Oh, we need someone to wash the dishes. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, we need someone to be at the welcome table. Okay, I'll do that. So you see, coming to the temple is not just going upstairs and seeing the deities and bowing down and praying. It also is all these other things. Someone has to do those things. So by being anxious, or not anxious, but being enthusiastic about having seva or different services to please the Lord is the signs of a real devotee. The real devotee wants to do all kinds of services for the Lord, not just one type of service. They'll do any type of service for the Lord. So when we come to the temple, we should come with the attitude of, I want to do service for Krishna. Now, Krishna, recognizing your purity of purpose, will give you many opportunities to serve him, and you will make a lot of tangible spiritual advancement. So it's just like this famous Kennedy brother. He said, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. So when we come to the temple, ask what we can do for Krishna, right? Not ask what Krishna can do for us. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada. Yeah. We can't hear you. Yeah.
Harish Maharaj. So when one in
The microphone died? You have to bury it. Well, why don't you just speak out loud? Louder, louder, louder. Yeah, when a devotee comes in the path of bhakti, he's neophyte devotee. Well, you should want to be a humble devotee who is ready to undertake any kind of devotional service that is bona fide. Don't worry about whether you're madhyamadhikari or you are lower than that or higher than that. Just worry about being engaged in devotional service, with all your energy and enthusiasm. So our question should always be, oh, Mataji, can I help in the kitchen? Or, oh, Prabhu, is there any service I can do in the temple? So when you come to the temple, see, don't ask what the temple can do for you. Ask what you can do for the temple. Okay? That's the way to come to the temple. Be ready to to be engaged in devotional service. And don't run away from it. You should run toward it, not away from it. Yeah. Because service to Krishna puts you directly in, let's say, the orbit of Krishna. He takes notice of your service. So service is the way to connect to Krishna, by the way. So we should be very enthusiastic to have service in the temple. Haribol. Any other questions? Okay, so the final thing that we will hear, no one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased by them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Okay, well, that is the secret right there. Let me read it again. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotee, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. So there's two big words here, transcendental and loving, right? Service. So that should be our goal. Transcendental loving service unto Krishna. That's what we do when we come to the temple. We should be engaged in transcendental loving service for Krishna. Now you have actually come to the temple. Okay, any other questions? If not, we will adjourn and pick it up. What? 10 hours from now. Okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now on the way to home, keep chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When you open the door to get into the house, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Right before you're going to go to sleep, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And if you can't go to sleep, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And when you wake up, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And on the way to work, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's why we say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Haribol. Thank you very much. Now you know what the secret is for happiness. What am I going to do with this? Oh, okay. Okay, now here. This is for you. But I'm going to tie it on your hand because you'll let it go and it'll be up on the ceiling for about a week. So let me tie this so you don't lose it. Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay, now wait a minute. Just hold your hand. If you start going up like this, you know there's something wrong. Okay. Haribol, thank you.